what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, a couple of recent physique updates from Hadi Choopan, as we are now 4.5 weeks away from the 2025 Mr. Olympia, rapidly approaching the 4-week out, 1-month point from the Olympia. We're getting very close. And in these two updates, you see this update from today where Hadi's doing pec flies. And you can see just every single fiber, every striation in his chest moving while he's doing those flies. Hadi just always known for this crazy condition. And then he posted another video update about a day ago showing his serratus, showing his midsection, showing his abs, and then showing a little bit of his legs, also showing that just extreme level of detail and condition that Hadi is known for bringing. And I've said it before, I'll say it again in this video. I think of all the guys that we're talking about as top contenders at the Olympia, from a conditioning standpoint, Hadi's updates have impressed me the most. When you're talking about Derek, Nick, Samson, talking about pure conditioning, I think Hadi is by far the most impressive. And I think especially in the context of this past weekend at the Italy Pro, when you see what Urs Kalasinski was able to do with conditioning really similar to Hadi's, those deep striations in the chest, head to toe, just peeled to the bone, you saw that Urs was able to beat bigger bodybuilders that have been around in open for a long time. Urs was able to do a lot by bringing that level of condition to his open debut against guys that have been doing open for, in some cases, a decade. So conditioning can carry you pretty far, especially when you're Hadi, as we've seen with Hadi. He's won the Olympia before. And again, I'll say, he's a guy that I don't feel like we've talked about enough or as much as the other three main guys, being Samson, Derek, and Nick. And I think there's still a few questions that remain with Hadi. It appears that he's not yet in the States. I've been checking his page every day because typically he comes a little bit early for the Olympia and stays with Hani or stays here in the States, weeks in advance of the Olympia to make sure he's not, last minute or going to miss it. And it doesn't appear like he's here yet. It certainly appears like he still intends on doing the Olympia. I think there's no question about that at this point. But I think it still is a question mark whether or not he's going to be able to get his visa from Iran to come over here and compete in the Olympia. I just don't know. I think it still is a question mark. And I think the other thing worth considering here going into the Olympia is that officially, Hani Rambod retired from coaching last year. So, through all the big wins in Hadi's career, he was working with Hani. Now, he's still sponsored by Evogen. He's still sponsored by Hani, so to what extent Hani might still help him with his prep, I'm not sure. But officially, Hani technically has retired from coaching. So how much will that impact Hadi's potential look on stage? I'm not sure. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is Hadi your pick to win the 2025 Olympia? And do you think he's going to make it? Now, next up in the news, Michael Krizo's latest physique update. This was posted on his YouTube channel today. And Michael Krizo is 7 weeks out. I guess it would be more like 6.5 weeks out from the 2025 Prague Pro. Now, this Prague Pro is interesting because you've got Keon Pearson making his open debut in Prague. It's also just a few weeks after the Olympia, so you've got a good chance at maybe seeing some Olympians also jump in this lineup like what we saw last year, where you saw Sean Clarita, you saw Martin Fitzwater, Chris Bumstead. Really exciting Prague Pro lineup last year. It looks like it's going to be as exciting this year. And it also looks like Keon is going to have a little bit of a challenge for him here with Michael Krizo. Michael Krizo is a certified mass monster. And again, I think it's worth pointing out that Keon will be competing in his open debut, but it is just weeks after 212. So unlike Derek Lunsford, he's not going to have a full offseason and a full prep specifically dedicated to open bodybuilding for his open debut. He's probably going to be pretty close to the size that he is as a 212 guy on the 212 Olympia stage at his open debut. So that's definitely something to consider, that the size difference might be a variable there. And looking at this update from Krizo, I mean, he looks just absolutely massive here. I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't try to qualify and get to the Olympia this year and that he's waiting until after the Olympia to compete. I would have liked to see Krizo in this year's Olympia lineup because, I mean, let's be honest, he looks phenomenal in this physique update. And he actually looks, to me, for Krizo, his conditioning looks really good for this 6.5, 7 week out mark. And this Prague show, like I said, it's interesting for a couple different reasons. I heard that potentially Behrooz could be doing the Prague show, Behrooz Tabani. I also keep hearing this rumor that there's a rumor going around that maybe Sam Sulek is going to make his pro debut at the Prague show. And I don't really know what those rumors are based on, but I kind of wonder, when you look at last year, Chris Bumstead doing the Prague show, Sean Clarita doing the Prague show, I kind of wonder if those promoters do pay guys to come compete in their show, because it's such a random show. It's not like it's close to any of these guys. It's not like it's close to Chris. It's not like it's close to Keon, and especially Sam Sulek. I wonder if they incentivize these guys to come do their show. Which, to my knowledge, there's not an established rule against a promoter paying somebody to show up to compete. I don't think it's something that you're not allowed to do. But it does make me wonder, in the event that maybe Sam did make his pro debut in Prague, and then you've got Keon making his open debut there, Chris Bumstead making his open debut there, it makes me wonder what's so special about that show that these guys are choosing it to have these big moments in their career, aside from maybe being incentivized to do so. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I just do wonder sometimes what the appeal or what the incentive is for these guys to pick Prague. Like Keon, for example. Like I said, it's not like he's from Prague or lives anywhere near there. I feel like there's got to be some kind of behind the scenes incentive that we don't know about. And it wouldn't surprise me, because if you think about it, really, they're in a really unique spot, being a couple weeks after the Olympia. So they know that a lot of the guys that have just competed at the Olympia are going to be in good shape. They're probably going to be ready to compete. They're in this spot where I feel like they want to kind of ride the hype and the momentum of the Olympia weekend and try to be this show that kind of secures some of these big Olympia names to compete at their show. I mean, again, I have no idea how they do it. I'm just speculating, but it is interesting that so many people seem to pick Prague to be this big, debut show. And then if you think about it, like Nexzilla, he was one of the bigger social media guys, one of the bigger names. He earned his pro card at the Prague Pro, well, the amateur Prague Pro, the Prague Amateur, I guess you would call it. And then Krizo, the guy that we're talking about now, he made his pro debut at the Prague Pro after being a much talked about guy on social media. So there's got to be something about that show that I'm not seeing, because they've had a lot of big moments end up being at the Prague show. Now, next up in the news, the latest few physique updates from Mike Sommerfeld over the last 24 hours. Very impressive. Again, we're about 4.5 weeks out from the 2025 Mr. Olympia. Mike looks great. I'm not going to go on some long diatribe about how Mike looks like a 212 guy or whatever. I think from a standpoint of, is he dialed in or not going into the Classic Olympia, he looks absolutely dialed. His conditioning's on point. The Classic judges seem to really like Mike's physique. So in theory, if he's already on paper the favorite to win that show based on his last Olympia placing, based on winning the Arnold Classic, then in theory, all he needs to do is improve upon the package that he's been bringing, come in dialed and conditioned, and then he would win. In theory, I mean, that's how it's going to go. Whether people debate about whether he looks classic or not, whether he's too muscular or not, all that debate aside, the fact is, really, on paper, all he needs to do is bring the best version of his physique, dialed in, conditioned, and the judges, it would seem, would reward that. So based on that, I think Mike looks like he's doing everything that he needs to do to potentially win the Olympia. I will say this, though. I think after seeing how successful Urs was able to be going straight up to open from Classic, if you look at, Mike versus Urs as Classic physique guys, Mike, pound for pound, is a lot more muscular than Urs was as a Classic guy. So I do think it strengthens the argument. And I think really the argument just is Mike would do well. And I think we're talking about 212. I think Mike would do well in 212. But after seeing how well Urs did in open, I think Mike would do well in open too. Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today, speaking of Hadi maybe getting the visa, I don't know. It's hard to say, but Behrooz Tabani also posted an update at 4.5 weeks out from the Olympia. I would say Hadi and Behrooz are probably the two biggest wild card guys at the Olympia this year, if they're both able to get there. Behrooz looks fantastic. I think it's an absolute tragedy that we've never gotten to see Behrooz on the Olympia stage all of these times that he's qualified. I really, really hope that we see him on that stage. It looks like he's prepping for it. He is prepping for it. I mean, that's what he's saying with these updates. I really hope that he makes it. He looks absolutely incredible. I think without a doubt he would be top 10. And I guess you could maybe add Big Ramy to that category if he shows up. He's a big wild card. But honestly, I don't know what to think about Ramy. I think there's probably more of a likelihood we'll see Behrooz compete than Ramy. I mean, he seemed like he was very enthusiastic about it. Ramy did, when he was, reposting all these winter is coming memes and saying he wants to come get his title back. But we've heard nothing from Ramy. No physique updates, no interviews, no training videos, nothing else recently about doing the Olympia this year. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with him or if we're going to see him or not. But Behrooz and Hadi are really at the top of my list of guys that I hope get the visa. I hope we get to see him on stage. And I think people will be surprised by the amount of damage that Behrooz could do to that lineup. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.